Hi, happy Social Media Managers Day.
Happy Social Media Managers Day.
Thank you very much. Where's all of our presents and all of the cards that we should have got in the post?
Oh, I know. Yeah. I just, maybe it's something to do with the global health pandemic.
Yeah, that's it. Well, look,
That's what it is. It's not that no one sent them to us.
that's what it is. Yeah. And it's the first ever day. So we have to get people used to it.
Absolutely. Well, it's lovely that we're all being celebrated like this. Thank you very much.
It is. I'm loving how much solidarity there is in all of the social networks. People are kind of feeling each other's pain and supporting each other, and it's lovely. Nice
Yeah. Yeah.
opportunity to shout people out. And I would like to shout you out because you are a fabulous social media expert. And we're just going to have a chat about some general what it's like to be a social media manager and some of the tips and advice and insights that you might have. So can you start us off with a little bit about your background and some of the brands that you've worked with?
Yeah, sure. So, so I'm Alice. I'm Global Head of Digital at WWF International. But when I started work, there wasn't such a thing as a social media manager. I've been working for quite a while, and digital didn't really exist. So I was started off as a marketer and communicator, and I've worked with some really great brands. So I used to work in the radio industry. So I worked with Capital Radio. That was loads of fun.
Yeah.
And I learned a really good tip actually working with DJs. So when you're doing something like a podcast or speaking to people, just have one person in mind, because a lot of the time the person that you're talking to will be on their own, even though there could be hundreds of people listening or watching. Just make that personal connection, and that was something I really took away from working with DJs at Capital Radio.
I think it's really good advice for all of us in social media when we're doing videos and things like this. I know I do a lot of kind of straight to camera on my own stuff. It feels weird on your own, doesn't it, in a room?
It does feel weird, but people might say, "Oh, hello everyone," and it's like, "Oh, where is everybody? It's just me." Yeah. And I think, as people who are social media experts, building communities and having that one-to-one conversation is so important. Just make people feel special.
Do you know what? It's reminded me of something. I don't know if it was Lauren Laverne or someone was saying that the tip that they'd got for being on radio was to talk in your bedroom voice, and somehow like all of Radio 4 presenters particularly do it like they're lying in bed and using the kind of voice they might use with a partner in bed. So I just thought, no wonder I'm seduced.
It's a little bit creepy.
No wonder I've got a thing for the bloke off the bottom line and Dragon's Den. Evan Davis, that's the one. Brilliant. So you've got such a cool career. You've had really interesting brands that you've worked with. Is there any examples of like brilliant work that you've done that you can tell us about?
Well, it was really exciting when I worked for an agency and we worked with Adobe to launch Creative Cloud in the UK. That was really amazing. So we set up, like a whole series of live feeds, and we had all of the Adobe ambassadors and experts, and it was just opened my eyes to a huge brand and how they connect with all of their different products and product lines, and so many different people use the Adobe suite. So that was really, really cool. But I guess also some of the best work is what's most recent or most top of mind. And last week at WWF, we launched our Living Planet report, which comes out every 2 years. And it's like a sort of health check of the planet and our wildlife and our water and our soil. And unfortunately, it's a continuing downward trajectory of nature loss and with the climate crisis. And it's really how we get that message across to people, but also to governments, thought leaders, businesses, that we really need to make some major changes. I think the 20th century way of working isn't sustainable into the 21st century. We're seeing all of the fires that we're seeing around the world, and this global health pandemic, it has come from really us sort of becoming too close to wild animals and mixing them with domestic animals. And it's a huge team effort, and all of our network, over 90 countries, get involved, loads of our partners, and the media pickup was great. And we've got a really cool website. You can go and take quizzes and interact. with all of our work. And so that's been, you know, really, really amazing. Really enjoyed it. And I just think anytime you get to collaborate with fantastic people, you learn something every time. So yeah, it's been a real pleasure.
I think it's something that must be incredibly satisfying as well, to take such a serious and hard-hitting subject and kind of bring it to life, because I think, you know, we need the reports and all the research, but you kind of need to be able to bring it to that person who's just looking for a bit of distraction on their phone in their lunch break or whatever. And
You're
it sounds
absolutely
like you've done
spot
it.
on. Yeah,
Yeah.
so I think we all realise the need to have different messages to our different audiences. And absolutely, the report's there for advocacy and for the media and for our scientific community, and also for the scientific credibility that we always apply to our work. But equally, what does it mean for you? What does it mean for me? How can we, you know, drive that change by voting, by purchasing differently, by consuming differently, and just spreading the word, you know, having the conversation. But we never want people to feel helpless.
Yeah.
So we always have pretty, you know, strong call to actions, which is hard at a global level. It's easier to do, you know, nationally, but, you know, we struggle on with that one.
Oh, I can't even begin to think about how that all coordinates as well. That must be a, like, incredible challenge to, like you say, like making things feel achievable when what you're doing is going into so many different cultures and so many different types of people. So that's absolutely
Exactly.
brilliant work.
Yeah.
Thinking about those kind of challenges, you've worked in also, I mean, where you're working now, you're doing amazing work, and there are lots of complex challenges, but you've been in so many different kind of brands working on their social media. What do you think the biggest challenges are for social media managers today, or some of the ones that you've experienced?
Yeah, that's such a good question. I mean, there's a few things that spring to mind. One of the biggest challenges I think that we face is the constantly shifting digital landscape. So, you know, it's keeping up with algorithm changes, keeping up with new product lines, and new platforms. So, you know, I remember Snapchat when that started, and then when Instagram started, then Facebook bought Instagram. And that, you know, the advertising started on there. No one knew how to do paid social on Instagram. You know, you just sort of ticked the share from Facebook to Instagram, and they're such different platforms. So I think, you know, that's a real challenge. And I think TikTok has presented a new challenge for lots of people.
Yeah.
Should we be on there? How are we going to measure impact? But the other thing that I would say that I think anybody who has ever worked in social media would agree with is anyone thinks they can do it because they use social media in their personal lives. It's kind of, oh, it's a breeze. And I think a lot of people just get social media added to their job without any training, without any sort of understanding of, you know, the best tools. And I think it's such a shame, because I think I get the feeling a lot of people feel a little bit out at sea, and not really sure what they're supposed to be doing. And I think that is a real challenge, and I'm not sure how to overcome it other than let everyone in the organisation try and manage the social media channels for a day, and they can then see that it's not a walk in the park.
And they make a right hash of it. Yeah.
Yeah, a hashtag of it.
Very nice. I like it. It's a big discussion around this whole day, actually. There's lots of chat going on online about that, because it's such a multi-skilled job. So on the one hand, we're trying to kind of demonstrate to the world that it's not something that your nephew can do or that the intern can do. But on the other hand, it's overwhelming when you think of all those different skills that we need, from all of those kind of digital marketing, paid side of things, down to community management and media relations on there. I think it can feel a bit overwhelming, and I hope it's nice for people today to have that chat and realize that we're all in it together, and you can't do everything brilliantly, but you know, we need support.
Exactly, and we do our best, and there's so many online tools and just things like this. It's amazing, you know, that you're giving people the opportunity to learn more. But I also think the thing with social media is it's so visible, and it's where news breaks, it's where crises break. It's, you know, anything you put on social media could be a headline in a newspaper the next day. So it's a huge pressure in terms of people looking to the social team to, you know, manage that and know how to react, and the speed at which, you know, people expect a response. is also can be, really tricky.
Yeah, we did a piece of research in preparation for today, and we kind of surveyed social media managers, and there's loads of these things that came up, like I think 60 something percent of social media managers put on weight during lockdown. And to me, that's a definite sign of like stress. It's a response to
Stress and
stress.
anxiety.
Lots
Yeah.
of people saying that they felt they didn't get enough support from their employers. They didn't feel that they were ever creative or had time and budget for training. All of these things that came out, that, we're not working down the mines. I recognize that we're not in, like, there's no actual peril, and we're not like NHS workers, but social media never goes, it's always on, and we have to get really good at kind of allowing ourselves to switch off and letting some of the FOMO just stay as, just be Mo.
Yeah. I like it.
um
You're absolutely right.
yeah, so since we've got you here and you've got such a breadth of expertise, are there any tips or things that you would like to share with other social media managers? Any advice for people in their careers or ways of doing things?
Yeah, I guess in terms of, I think sort of there's a couple of ways to approach this. So advice in terms of the work, I think one of the really key things is to listen to your communities.
Yeah.
So really the engagement side of social media can often be forgotten. There's always content creation, there's always measurement. It can often seem a bit like a broadcast tool, when the absolute key to any social media strategy is community engagement. So we've got so many tools, polls and Q&As and opportunities for people to make comments. And I think just getting to know your communities and really engaging with them is really key to also enjoying your job and feeling like you're not just a bot, and it's not just some sort of platform. There are people on both sides. So I think that's an important one. But also, I think of many of the skills that you've listed, a handful, and we know there's so many. One of the key things is to have a good sense of humour.
Yeah.
And I really think that is absolutely essential in order to enjoy your job, and just have a little bit of fun. Like you say, we're not key workers, we're not on the front line, and even so, it's a very stressful and always on job. So just finding those moments to have a little bit of fun, I think is really key.
I do. I think it's such a good piece of advice to hear that from someone like you as well, because I think a lot of the time, because we're trying to demonstrate to our employers, whatever they might be, whether they're clients or internally, we're trying to show our worth and our value and be seen as professional. But sometimes you forget that professional doesn't equal boring. Like, you are allowed to enjoy yourself, and you can let your hair down and be a bit silly sometimes, if that's what helps you to get through what is basically like 2020.
Yes, I know. Wow.
Time.
Who knew?
Yeah. I'm going to ask you if you've got kind of any other ideas or thoughts that you'd like to share with social media managers. And at this, as I say that, I'm going to say we're live and we're on Facebook. So I'm going to look into the comments, and if anyone's got any questions, get them in there and we can ask Alice while she's here with us. But yeah, any other kind of reflections on how we're managing as a group of professionals, or anything that we should be doing or shouldn't be doing to make life better?
Yeah, it's such a broad topic, and I think one of the things that I'm becoming increasingly aware of, across digital, when you look at social media in particular, it's becoming such a divisive and often quite quite a mean space,
Yeah.
where people aren't giving other people the opportunity to share their views and listen and agree to disagree. And I think, we don't know how social media is going to evolve, but I would say, really start in your planning, thinking about how you can bring those communities more into your owned platforms. So using, social media for lead gen to get email addresses, so people can, hear about your work in a safer space. Yeah. And they don't feel that perhaps, they might get, ridiculed or trolled in social media. And, just sort of making your websites more interactive, so that people can, you know, get to know your brand and your work a little bit more. So we're not relying on social media over which we have very little control. You know, there's so many new laws coming in. I think TikTok's getting slammed in the US. I know that, you know, there was a boycott for advertising in July with Facebook, with the Stop Hate for Profit campaign. So there's so much that's in the macro environment that's out of our control, but you don't want to lose those dedicated, loyal supporters and your communities. So that's certainly something I'm giving a lot of thought to.
That's, I mean, I think that's such a really brilliant way to position this as well, because as a, you know, I'm running a business, and I always think it's really nice to collect people on email, because you have a better rate of open, like more people are likely to get involved, because algorithms can be, you know, you have to
challenging,
challenging, let's say, yeah. And I always, you know, I enjoy the sport of creating a nice little newsletter or whatever. So, you know, you have all of these different arms, but I never really thought of it from that point of view of users now, if you want to call them users, your audience, people don't want to be around a whole load of murky Russian bots. And, you know, I can even see it in my own use of social media now, that occasionally you get a comment and you just think that's come from a really seriously dodgy user. Like someone called me a Karen the other day. And I just thought,
there's just no need for that. Do they know you?
Maybe I am a Karen, I don't know. But it came from, you know, the first thing I did was click on that account and just think it's very suspect and all over the place. And I can afford the luxury of going in and having a little nose around and making my own conclusion about what kind of a bot that is. But a lot of people will take it to heart. You know, it's a horrible place to be for a lot of people. So not to say that we can't make it lovely and there's not great things, but I like this idea of trying to bring people into safer places. And even if that's a group where you've got really clear rules about how people behave.
Yeah, well, exactly like this Facebook group. I think, you know, that has been actually a positive response from Facebook to, you know, organic reach dropping off a cliff, and perhaps people finding themselves in a community where, you know, they might not be comfortable. Whereas within a Facebook group, there's moderation, and, you know, you can have, you know, certain rules of engagement. And it's somewhere that you know, you can feel a little bit more like you're with like-minded people. Yeah. And there's nothing wrong with challenging each other, listening to different points of view, but it's often it's not often very pleasantly done. And to the point about, you know, someone making a comment about you don't know what, you know, state that person might be in at the time. So for you to receive a message like that, you could have just had some really bad news, you could be having a really bad day, you know, feeling very anxious about something, and that could set someone back, you know, really mentally, in terms of their mental health. And so I do feel quite strongly that, yes, let's, you know, try and make social the place we want it to be, but don't rely on it too much, you know, and have that duty of care to your community.
Yeah, and we've got a guest post from Sarah Clark from Charity Comms on the blog, and she's talking about this, you know, trying to, I was going to say attack, which is kind of aggressive language, trying to tackle hate and hate speech online. So yeah, have a look at that. I'll post the link in.
I will, thank you. And thank you to Sarah.
Yeah, no, it's really interesting, and I'm fascinated because we've been doing training the last week with lots of organisations, but one particularly who've been so burned by one of those kind of situations where someone was attacking an individual in the organisation they work for, but they were like very wary of going out and doing some real citizen engagement as a public body. They're afraid of it, and there's so much opportunity to talk productively, and that one experience really knocked them off.
I mean, just to that point, I would say that when you're in the eye of the storm, it can feel like everybody, you know, is sort of coming at you. And that's why it's really good to have some monitoring tools if, you know, you have the resources. So you can actually see the share of voice overall is absolutely tiny. And just to sort of take a deep breath and put it in context. So although it feels like you're seeing all of these notifications, or you're just watching a conversation spiral out of control, it's absolutely tiny in the grand scheme of things. And it's really important to remember that. And do reach out to people who could support you if you're in that position, because it's not as big as it feels, but that's not to diminish how someone might be feeling if they are in that eye of the storm.
Yeah, that's brilliant. Now that's a very good point to move on to a question that we've got from Leah Morantz, who is a fellow amazing human like you, and badass communicator. Can you talk a bit more about what you measure, why and how, including engagement?
Yeah, so again, the way that social media monitoring works, as I'm sure they often keep changing the parameters. So one minute you're looking at impressions, the next minute it's reach. And so we've sort of, at WWF, stepped away from those kind of vanity metrics, how many likes have we got, how many followers have we got. We're much more focused on sanity metrics. So that's more about the quality than the quantity. So I feel if someone has shared your post, has taken the time to comment or tagged one of their friends, or perhaps saved it for later, which you can monitor in Instagram, for instance, that's a real sign of engagement to me. It isn't just about views and likes, because those aren't robust metrics. Certainly in Facebook, we know that a 3-second autoplay is counted as a view of a video. So I think it's just important to have a think about what are you trying to achieve. So is it conversion, or is it reach? Are you trying to get more people to know about your work? And so I think you have to tailor your monitoring to your campaign, and just focus on the things that you really think you can learn from. So why was that good and what went wrong here, and take that time to apply the lessons that you've learned from your analytics, because it's very easy to just churn out reports and then not apply that to the work, so that you're growing and learning from your community and from those metrics.
I think that's really good advice, and that that quest to find the meaning in the data is so important, because it helps you to not just learn, but it helps you to prove the worth internally to whoever's in charge of your brand, I guess.
Yeah.
So I'm a big fan of that. We talk about that in our Social Media Managers Academy. Swain is really enjoying the panda that you've got in the background, and also loving the sanity metrics. There we go. I got a bunny.
Hello, bunny.
Not quite so nice and fluffy as that. And I got a couple of cats now sleeping, having had a massive wild fight in the middle of a live that I was doing earlier on today.
Fantastic. Yeah, my dog's having a little sleep, so hopefully we won't get any barking. But yes, thank you. This is Panda the Panda. Not very original. If you can think of a better name, pop it in the chat.
Panda knows where he stands, or she stands with that.
Absolutely.
Definitely talking to me. I'm the panda in the room. That's been, we've not even had that long, but we've had such a whistle-stop tour of lots of the things that we're experiencing. And I think seeing it from your angle, where you do have such a global outlook in what you're doing, is handy for some of us who kind of often work on smaller projects, because you might in some ways have more of a better overview in the way that things really are than some of us who sometimes feel like we're on our own and it doesn't seem to be going right, everyone's hating on us. But like you say, taking a step back and looking at that share of voice is a really nice way to calm ourselves. And
anything to calm ourselves, right?
So if people want to get involved in some of the work that you're doing, because you did mention that the report came out last week, what should they know about? Where should they go? And how do they get in contact with you?
Yeah, absolutely. So the global handles across all social media are at WWF, but we also have our national office in the UK, so that would be at WWF_UK. If you want something, a little bit more, relevant to you. But by all means, follow all of them. And our website is panda.org. So yeah, just go and have a little look and see if you want to join our communities. We've also got a Facebook group called Team Earth. So if these are things that interest you, you can join a really dedicated, brilliant, intelligent, fun community where people are sharing all their different stories about how they're improving conservation or having conversations with their friends, family, and local schools, whatever it might be. And it's a global space, so I find it just really interesting to find out what's going on in Mexico or the Philippines, and the different challenges and opportunities that people have in their everyday lives as we try and, you know, restore nature.
Brilliant, thank you. I'm going to get and join that group right now. That sounds great.
Brilliant.
Thank you so much for joining us. I hope
Thank
you have
you.
a lovely Social Media Managers Day for the rest of it.
Absolutely.
And we'll all, from everyone, thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Have a great afternoon.
Bye.
Panda hugs. Bye.
See ya.